So my first card is from the Medicine Heart Oracle. I haven't done that one in a while. And it's number 17 with toe. And it talks about in the beginning about divine timing always being relevant, and how like there are cosmic energies around you, and right now is you're on a path to realizing that this right now things are happening in divine timing. But I was more drawn to, like, because if you are familiar with Elena Fairchild's work, a lot of her guidebooks have like several different meanings to the card, and in more depth, like there's more than just like one story. They all kind of intertwine, but she has the little hummingbird there, and that hummingbird is the mot bird, and the Mayan peoples call it toe, so that's where she got the name from. So maybe these colors mean something to you too, because I think they're really pretty blue. But it's also maybe hummingbirds have a thing for you that means something to you. Maybe they do have a thing for you, I don't know. But the story that she tells about the mot bird is, in the myth, was that because if you see like the flat edges on the tail of the mot, they look flattened. There's like flattened little things on it that kind of look like a grandfather clock. So that's another reason where she gets the timing coming from. But what I want to talk about is the story that she talks about in the legend, where it said that he was such a beautiful bird, and he became so arrogant that a celestial invitation was issued to all the animals so they could receive their name from heaven. Motman took a nap instead of attending. On their way to the ceremony, many animals ran across his tail feathers as he snoozed, which is how they assumed their unusual shape of two long paddle-like feathers. To name something is to express its essence. To be given a name from the divine is to be granted clarity as to the truth of our being, which facilitates realization of our divine purpose. And that's what I'm getting out of this card, because a lot of times that's the thing. Like when you kind of finally define, that's why journaling is so important. Shout out to Witch Insights. But it is, because when you really kind of cut out that clutter, then you're able to kind of understand what you really are feeling the drive to do. Because if you're like me, you have multiple passions and you're excited about everything, but you probably also have multiple responsibilities. And to really kind of define that sometimes is hard, and that can kind of keep us from really understanding the importance of what we really want. And it kind of reminds me of the Never-Ending Story too, because the childlike empress, once he gave her a name, like then it all became something, right? I don't know if you guys watch Third Eye Tyrone, but he did something on I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's something to the fact that giving a name to things or adding a word to something gives it its value. So describing something, and it's kind of contradictory for me because I don't like to define what my spirituality is, but I kind of have in a way, because I'm just like enamored with it all. But I think that concept too, it's like when thousands of bazillions of years ago, I can't remember how long ago it was, where they really didn't have a word for blue. So they technically didn't see blue. They seen it as different shades of purple or different shades of other colors. And so once they defined it, then it became a thing. So like in that Third Eye Tyrone, I'll have to see if I can find that episode and then I'll put it up. But it's basically saying that like something doesn't come into your reality or into your existence until you define it or name it, until it becomes a thing because you have said that it was a thing. So I kind of feel like that's kind of what this is about, whether you're trying to manifest something, whether these are traits you're trying to find in yourself. And if you're like me and the word define kind of terrifies you, it's not so much that, but it's like having a idea of the direction that you're going. So also they talk about in this card too, she talks about the basic diet of the Matmat being mosquitoes. So sometimes the oracle can indicate being protected against vampiric forces. So and the way that connects with that is your path that you're kind of on and the thing that you're trying to achieve. Sometimes the things that suck your attention or your energy just by like overthinking and just constantly worrying about certain things or trying to define something, right? Sometimes that can waste the time that you really could be spending on getting into the deep parts and the feelings of the thing that you want to do. And if you look at my first column, we have the Eight of Swords and we have the Five of Swords. So the Eight of Swords, a lot of times that's overthinking, but these are things that we can free ourselves, right? There's easily free ourselves from these things. We're just overthinking. There's overwhelming us. And then you have the Five of Swords, which a lot of times the Five of Swords is, it can be winning, but winning in a way that's not, how do I want to say it? Not in the way that you intended. It might not bring you joy because maybe it was like kind of in a shifty way. Because if you look at it, he's still, a lot of his members of his group are dead, but he won. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like an unsatisfactory win. So to me, and I know normally don't do negative, but maybe somebody is kind of in that aspect where, we're overthinking or we're trying too hard to find and define something. Maybe what we really need to do is to kind of tap into ourselves and really find out what that feeling is. Really tap into what our goal is as far as like, how does it make you feel? What lights you up in that way? That can kind of really help you define where you're at, right? Because I feel like sometimes we just go. We do like 50 million things because we don't really know what our purpose is. I get like that. And that can be a headache. That can really be overwhelming. But the Five of Swords also can be like strategy too. It can be like, he's winning because of, he did some strategy and that caused him to not lose the fight as opposed to his opponents. And so, maybe this is something where with the Eight of Swords sometimes can be that energy of taking the blindfold off and seeing that all you need to do is just step away from those Eight Swords. So maybe that's something for you. And then when we go to our column of what we need to work on, and I tried to cover that little birdie's boobie. I don't know if I did. I can't see. It's too tiny. But we have the Seven of Wands and we have the Nine of Pentacles. So as something to work on or to focus on, a lot of times I think of the Seven of Swords, and I also sometimes think the Nine of Swords the same way, depending on what, wands, depending on what context the reading is in. I kind of feel like that is being spiritually protected. And this aspect, especially with the Seven of Wands, this is being, it's that spiritual line in the sand. That's recognizing that you are comfortable with your stance and you know who you are and you're okay with expressing that. So I feel like we're being told that maybe we're overwhelmed with certain things and, with the Eight of Swords and we're not sure our direction, we're letting that overwhelm us, but allow yourself to remember that you have come a long way. Like the Nine of Pentacles, this is independence, but it's not independence in a way that, she is being taken care of by somebody else. This is somebody who can take care of themselves. So I feel like this is saying that as far as your spiritual path goes, or your whatever this is talking about for you, you have that understanding of what your stance is. You have that ability, and you have the independence of knowing who you are. So I feel like we're kind of saying here to kind of tap into that, to allow yourself to really understand that. And then what we have as our column of things to help us, our allies, our assets, things that we, have skills in. We have the King of Cups and we have the King of Pentacles, two of my favorite kings ever. This is somebody who is in control of their emotional self. They feel deeply, but they know when to allow themselves to get into the depths and when to not let it take them under, right? And then the King of Pentacles, this is somebody who understands giving and receiving, but it's also in a constructive way. This is somebody who will give to somebody and protect his family, but also teach them the value of hard work. So these are both masters in their area. So the King of Pentacles is a master in creating his, 3D world, as they say, 3D, in his, value in himself that way, through hard work and integrity. And the King of Wands or King of Cups is understanding how to use his emotions in his world and allow that to not get him under, right? He uses his emotions with integrity. So male or female, whatever. So this could be energies that are in you, or this could be somebody that you have in your life one or two people, whoever, or this could be you and another person, but this is an energy that you have available to you. Perhaps there's somebody that you are with or that you know that can kind of help you with these areas. Sometimes I think when we're on our path, we think that we have to do it all alone, and I don't think that's true. There's a lot of ideas I bounce off my husband all the time. He doesn't always understand my perspective, but I don't always understand his either. But at the same time, he's very supportive, and sometimes he gives me information that I don't want. Like, he's really good at being the devil's advocate, he says. It's like, well, I'm just telling you because you didn't think about that. I'm like, whatever, dude. But anyway, so that's something to look into. I mean, maybe it's somebody around you, or it's people that you can work with, or these are aspects of yourself you really need to tap into. You have these qualities. I would say, since there is the 9 Pentacles over there, I do feel like this is something that you have in you with the King of Pentacles. And then our last column is Death and the 6 of Cups, which, I mean, this could very well be like energy from our ancestors. I know I keep harping on the ancestors lately, hugely feeling that a lot. And also, this could be this big transformation back to that innocence of ourselves. Because a lot of time, the 6 of Cups can also be like that nostalgia from before, that childlikeness, wisdom through innocence type of thing. And then we have the Liminal Forrest Oracle, and I have pace. So I feel like this is kind of saying we're on our pace. I don't think like it's telling us to go faster or slower. I feel like this is saying that we are on the pace that we're supposed to be, and to kind of be okay with that. So maybe that first card did have a little bit of divine timing in it. I don't know. And then we'll go to our Herbal Astrology Oracles, and I have number 17 with Go to Cola. Number 17 again, so maybe 1s and 7s mean something for you. I haven't seen a lot of 1s and 7s lately, but it's higher consciousness. So upright, it's like the hermit, solitude, soul searching, realization, greater knowing, and enlightenment. It's also Mercury and the moon. It's, so to me, that's like emotional intelligence, which kind of feels like a King of Cups type of thing, right? But so I feel like that's kind of saying, understanding like where that's coming from, kind of really, we're looking for this thing and trying to figure it out, and that's giving us this headache because we feel like we don't know where we're going. We're feeling trapped because we have too many thoughts in our mind about, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right way to do it? So I feel like kind of tapping into the way those things make you feel, like really contemplating inwardly, and letting your emotions kind of guide your way in that way. And then we have Poppy at number 41. 4s and 1s mean things to me too. And in this book, they do talk about this card kind of being comparison to the Devil card. And I'll tell you why, my theory anyway. But so it says dream, mystery of dream time, the great unknown, breaking addictive habits, releasing unhealthy relationships, and aligning with new intentions. I feel like aligning in new intentions is what this card is here for, and the dream time. So it's Neptune and Saturn. So, just like with those 8 of Swords and overthinking, it's kind of like how we're we're allowing these things to take us over, but really a lot of times those things that bind us are good lessons. Those are lessons into what we need to, tap into and either transform and transition into something beautiful and alchemize. Or it sometimes can be our hidden power, kind of like your shadow side, sometimes because your hidden power. And the reason why they kind of associate this with the poppy is because it can be a medicine, but it also can be a poison in the way that you use it. It's understanding the balance of those things. So just like with me, and I don't know why this came to my head just now, which is so funny, and there's an alarm, so maybe this is supposed to mean something to me or somebody else. But my whole thing with trying to be all like, I don't have a box, or I don't have a label, sometimes can be too much of a block. Okay, I was over that beeping. But also, like with the Devil card, sometimes the Devil card can represent having an immense power, right? But knowing how to use that power, because it can be used for good or for bad. And I don't know why I'm thinking this, but like with the King of Cups, sometimes too much emotion can kind of ruin a situation, right? It can kind of blind us to what's really there, because we feel too deeply, right? And just like too much power in being controlling in like earthly matters. Being like business savvy sometimes can make us kind of devoid of our emotions, right? So I feel like that's kind of part of that too. I remember reading somewhere for the Eight of Swords where it said the paradox is, in order to be unlimited, the mind has to be limited. So I thought that was pretty cool. And that kind of feels like this. But also like that kind of makes me understand like the Death card and the Six of Cups a little bit better. I'm just rabbit holing, just so you guys know. But like the Death card is transformation, right? It's death and rebirth. And if you get those Six of Cups, a lot of times is being even emotionally, knowing that give and take emotionally. So I feel like this is really, this is really saying to kind of go in and understand where you stand in that way. You have gone so far. There are some things, but I think a lot of times we get our mind all mixed up in the details. And then let's go to my end card. And I feel like this is kind of where the dream comes into. I feel like we're being asked to kind of go into your dream spaces, because a lot of times in the dream space, like that's where there's things that are all like encoded and whatever. And sometimes you can think of it as being confusing, but we're not using our logical thinking mind to kind of muddy it up. Symbols come clearer in the unclearness, if that makes sense. Once you understand and discern what those symbols mean to you, again, it's just like tarot and things like that. It brings up symbols that kind of trigger something inside of your subconscious, your spiritual self, your inner self, your real deep down self. And then, whether that comes to you through spirit or your ancestors or whatever, however it gets there. And I feel like there's a big part of that too. If you're somebody that gets messages that way, I feel like this is speaking to whoever that is. And it's interesting, like sometimes we'll dream something and we'll think it's nothing, and then later we go back like, holy crap, that meant so much, right? It clears things up in a way, even if it's like foggy and it's weird, like, oh my gosh, I dreamed about like this frog with like a top hat, and then, oh, that reminded me of this, and it makes sense. But anyway, so I'm so sorry for today. I'm just rabbit holing and I love it. Anyway, so we have the upper world, number 59. And the essence says, angels, divine helpers, and ancient ones, all varieties of luminous beings populate the upper world. It is the place where you go to retrieve your destiny and find out who you will become, discover your great potentials and undreamt of possibilities. It is also the place where the spirit of the dead arrive, and when they complete their journey to the light. The invitation is saying the upper world is calling you to step into your fully realized self. And I don't know why I just got chills right now, but I did. Clear distractions so that you can move into a higher destiny. Do not fall into the temptation to craft a slightly more improved version of yourself. You hear that, people? That's saying, I don't want to just make myself a better person because I'm a bad person. No, you want to step into what fulfills you. That's what I get from that. What you perceive as a problem or an obstacle is in fact the irritation you need to take the great leap. Remember, you cannot cross the Grand Canyon in just 2 small jumps. Oh, that was beautiful. So I just feel like, oh my goodness, this is a noisy town. I feel like we're really being, there's things that are going to kind of trip us up. And a lot of times we feel stuck, but we're not stuck. These are things that are inviting us to look at a little bit deeper. I can't remember who I was watching. I was watching somebody's videos. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like commenting some really negative stuff. And as somebody on this side who was getting what the video was about, I took the negative comments as those people were triggered. And when you're triggered, this causes you, doesn't it? We all know this. This triggers allow you to see what you need to work on, right? So I kind of feel like this is telling us that too. It's like if you feel stuck, or if you feel like something is blocking you or it's in your way, that's what you need to work on and eliminate, right? That's the thing that you need to work to solve. I also say that this is about, not stressing, about feeling bad, about wanting to do bigger and better what means to you. I have to realize that all the time. Sometimes I feel guilty for things. I'm like, well, I want to do this, but how does this affect this person? How does that affect that person? Well, when they see you doing your thing, that will want them to do their thing, right? But I feel like, tapping into those dream spaces, basically tapping into your subconscious is kind of where this dream aspect is coming to me. Because that's kind of, those realms are where we get to speak to spirit. We get to speak to, our ancestors that have passed on, or, there's deeper parts of ourselves. If you're, all of it is connected, I feel. And so, without defining it. But I feel like, don't be afraid to dream big. And don't be afraid of those shadowy parts. They're there for a reason, and you have the ability to find out the truth through that. So I hope this meant something to somebody today. I'm all over the place, and I am so sorry. And I appreciate you.